I never thought I'd be the kind of man who'd eavesdrop on his own wife. My name is Kevin Robinson, and I'm 34 years old. But there I was, standing in my own hallway, listening to Jasmine discuss my financial worth with her lover like I was livestock at auction. The betrayal didn't just hurt. It ignited something primal in me. Because when you discover the person you trusted most has been plotting your destruction, you don't just roll over. You don't forgive. You don't take the high road. You burn their world to ash and salt the earth. And that's exactly what I did. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, if you've ever been made to feel like a fool in your own home, then you'll understand why what I did next wasn't just revenge. It was justice. She got exactly what she deserved. If you've ever wanted to see a cheating spouse face real consequences, this story will satisfy that desire. By the end, Jasmine would lose everything while I rebuilt my life stronger than before. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I came home early from a business trip on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd closed the Seattle deal 3 days ahead of schedule, and I wanted to surprise Jasmine. We'd been married for 8 years, and lately things had felt distant. I'd attributed it to work stress, to the long hours I'd been putting in at my software consulting firm. I thought maybe surprising her would reignite something. I parked down the street. My usual spot was blocked by a contractor's truck. As I approached our home in the quiet suburb of Portland, I heard voices through the living room window, Jasmine's voice, and a man's. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was nothing. Maybe her brother was visiting. I opened the door silently, and that's when I heard it clearly. Adam, the lawyer said if he's making $200,000 a year, I could get at least $4,000 a month in alimony. Maybe more, Jasmine was saying. Her voice had this eager quality I'd never heard before. Plus, half of everything. The house, the retirement accounts, the business valuation. You deserve it, babe. The man's voice, Adam's voice, was smug. You put up with him for 8 years. That's worth something. My hand was still on the doorknob. My entire body had gone cold. I walked into the living room. They were on the couch together. Too close. Jasmine's hand was on his thigh. The shock on her face would have been comical if I wasn't currently experiencing the complete destruction of my reality. Kevin, she stammered, pulling her hand back. You're home early. Adam stood up, a tall guy with slicked back hair and a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He had the audacity to look irritated at the interruption. Yeah, I said, my voice unnaturally calm. I am. Who the hell is this? This is Adam, Jasmine said quickly, her face flushing. He's a friend from work. A friend? I looked at Adam. You make it a habit to discuss alimony with your friends' wives? Adam's jaw tightened. Look, Kevin, this isn't what it... Don't. I cut him off, my voice dropping to something dangerous. Don't you dare stand in my house and lie to my face. I heard every word, the alimony calculations, the asset division. The timing. I turned to Jasmine. 8 years. You put up with me for 8 years? That's how you see our marriage? Jasmine's shock was morphing into defensiveness. You're never here, Kevin. You're married to your work. What did you expect me to do? Not plot to rob me blind? I shot back. Not bring your affair partner into our home to discuss how to maximize your payout? There were about 1,000 options before betrayal and theft. Adam stepped forward. Hey, watch how you talk to her. I moved closer to him, my voice deadly quiet. You need to get out of my house, right now, before I make you leave. Or what? Adam smirked. You gonna hit me? That'll look great in divorce court. No, Adam, I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Then I'm going to find out who you are, where you work, and whether your employer knows you like to pursue married women. Then I'm going to make sure every single person in your life knows exactly what kind of man you are. I pulled out my phone. Your move. His smirk faltered. Jasmine grabbed his arm. Just go, Adam. We'll talk later. Yeah, Adam, we'll talk later, I echoed mockingly. You two have a lot to plan, apparently. After he left, Jasmine turned on me. You had no right to threaten him like that. I actually laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I had no right. That's what you're going with? You're screwing another man, planning to divorce me for maximum financial gain, and I'm the one with no rights. This marriage has been dead for years, she shouted. You know it as well as I do." "Then you should have had the courage to leave," I said coldly. "Instead, you schemed and calculated and waited for the perfect moment to extract maximum value. That's not a failing marriage, Jasmine. That's premeditated theft. It's not theft. It's what I'm entitled to." "You're not entitled to anything gained through deception," I said. "But you know what? Go ahead. File. Get your lawyer. Take your best shot." I leaned in close. "Because now I know exactly what you are, and I'm going to make sure you get exactly what you deserve, which is nothing." The fear that flashed across her face was satisfying, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Not because I was running away, but because I needed space to think, to plan. I'd built a successful business from nothing. I'd negotiated million-dollar contracts. I knew how to strategize, how to play the long game. This was just another negotiation, except this time, it was personal. The next morning, I called my old college friend Magnus Whitmore. He was a divorce attorney, one of the best in Oregon. We met for coffee at a place downtown. "Kevin, I'm sorry this is happening," Magnus said after I'd explained everything. "But you did the right thing coming to me immediately. Oregon is an equitable distribution state, which means marital assets are divided fairly, not necessarily equally. But if she's been planning this, she's probably already consulted an attorney." "She has," I confirmed. "Someone gave her the $4,000 a month figure." Magnus nodded grimly. "That's roughly accurate given your income. Maybe more if she can argue she gave up career opportunities for the marriage." "How long has the affair been going on?" "I don't know. I just found out yesterday." "We need to find out," Magnus said. "Adultery isn't technically a factor in Oregon divorce law, but it can affect spousal support if marital funds were used to support the affair. We need evidence, financial records, communications, everything." "I can get access to our accounts," I said. "Do it today. Download everything. Bank statements, credit cards, every transaction for the past 2 years. If she's been spending marital funds on him, dinners, hotels, gifts, that's dissipation of marital assets, and she could be ordered to pay it back." I felt the first spark of something like hope. "What else?" "Don't move out permanently. Don't leave the house. If you do, she can claim abandonment and possibly get exclusive use of the marital home. Go back tonight. She's going to make it hell. Let her. Document everything. If she threatens you, record it. Oregon is a one-party consent state. You can record conversations without her knowledge. If she gets violent, call the police. We want a record of every single thing she does wrong." I spent the rest of the day gathering financial records. What I found made my blood boil. Over the past 18 months, Jasmine had spent nearly $40,000 on things I couldn't account for. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to. Weekend hotel stays when I was supposedly traveling. A $5,000 payment to a jewelry store. I'd never received any jewelry from her. I remembered our anniversary last year. She'd given me a watch from Target, $29, while she was spending $5,000 on jewelry for someone else. Adam's full name was Adam Hansen. I found him easily. He worked as a sales manager at a luxury car dealership, probably where they'd met. Jasmine had bought her BMW there 2 years ago. 2 years. This had been going on for 2 years, at minimum. That evening I went home. Jasmine was in the kitchen, her face hard. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said. "This is my house," I replied calmly. "I'm not going anywhere. My attorney says I can make you leave. Your attorney is wrong. Tell them to call my attorney if they want to discuss it." I pulled out Magnus's business card and set it on the counter. "Magnus Whitmore, he's expecting the call." The color drained from her face. Magnus had a reputation. Everyone in Portland's legal community knew him. "You hired Magnus Whitmore?" "Did you think I'd just roll over?" I asked. "You want a war, Jasmine? I'll give you one. But I promise you, you won't like how it ends." Over the next 2 weeks, I lived in a cold war. Jasmine and I barely spoke. She moved into the guest room without a word, and I let her. The distance suited me fine, but I was documenting everything. Her late nights out. I photographed the garage when her car was gone at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 in the morning. The expensive charges still appearing on her credit card, designer boutiques, high-end restaurants, wine bars I'd never heard of. The frequent texts that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in years. She'd sit at the kitchen table, phone in hand, and her whole face would light up. For him. You ever watch someone you used to love become a stranger? It's like seeing a mask fall away, realizing the person you married never actually existed. During those sleepless nights, lying in our bed while she slept in the guest room, I developed a plan. Something radical. Something that would have seemed insane if I wasn't desperate. I was going to fake my own professional downfall. The idea hit me around 2 in the morning on a Thursday. I owned my consulting firm outright with George. We had 3 major contracts that made up 90% of our revenue. I'd been planning to expand, to hire more staff, to grow the business even bigger. Instead, I was going to burn it to the ground. Temporarily, anyway. I called George the next morning. "We need to meet. Your place." George lived in a quiet neighborhood in Beaverton, about 30 minutes from my house. We sat in his home office, and I laid it out for him. "You want to do what?" George said after I'd explained. "I want to suspend operations temporarily. Pay out the current contracts, but don't renew them. Send the contractors home. Make it look like the business is failing." "Kevin, that's insane. We're making money hand over fist." "I know, and my wife is about to take half of it. George, she's been cheating on me. Planning this divorce like a military operation. If she files now, she gets half of everything, including your half of the business." That got his attention. His jaw tightened. "She could force a sale, or a valuation that requires me to buy her out, which I can't do without liquidating. Your investment goes down the drain." George rubbed his face, thinking. I could see him running the numbers in his head. We'd built this company together 7 years ago. He'd put in just as much work as I had, just as much money in the early days. "How long would we need to suspend?" he asked finally. 6 months, maybe less, just until the divorce is final. And then we start back up. New contracts, new growth. But this time, my ex-wife gets nothing." George was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "This is crazy, but okay. I trust you. Let's do it." Over the next week, I systematically dismantled my income. I called our 3 major clients, a healthcare software company in Seattle, a financial services firm in San Francisco, and a manufacturing company in Denver. I'd landed all 3 contracts myself, built the relationships over years, and now I was ending them. "We're restructuring," I told each one. "We'll fulfill our current obligations, but we won't be able to renew after this project cycle ends." They were disappointed. A couple tried to negotiate, but I held firm, made it all look legitimate. Company memos, financial projections showing declining revenue, restructuring plans that justified the shutdown. I let our contractors know their services wouldn't be needed after the current projects wrapped up. Most understood. The market was tough. These things happened. Then I went home and told Jasmine I'd been fired. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, and I let my shoulders slump, made my voice sound defeated. "What do you mean, fired?" Jasmine stood there, her face a mixture of shock and anger. "The partners decided to go a different direction," I said, making my voice sound dejected. "They're restructuring. I'm out." "But you own part of the company." "Owned. Past tense. They bought me out. Enough to cover my investment, but nothing else." "How much?" "50,000. It's already in our joint account." I watched her mind work. I could practically see the calculations happening behind her eyes. 50,000 was a lot less than the ongoing income she'd been expecting to tap into. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Look for another job, I guess. Might have to take something lower paying for a while. The market's tough right now." I headed upstairs, leaving her standing there. I could feel her eyes on my back. That night, I heard her on the phone in the guest room. Her voice was agitated, stressed. I pressed my ear to the door. "I don't know, Adam. He says he got forced out. Only got 50,000. No, that's exactly the problem. The alimony calculation was based on 200,000 a year. If he's unemployed, I get nothing." "I know, but the lawyer says we can't prove it's intentional." "Fine, I'll file anyway. At least I get half of the house and whatever's in the accounts now." I smiled in the darkness. The trap was set. 3 days later, I came home to an empty house. Jasmine was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Most of her clothes were missing from the closet, and on the kitchen counter, right where I'd see them the moment I walked in, were the divorce papers. I stood there for a moment, staring at them. This was it. The official declaration of war. I picked up the papers and called Magnus, putting him on speaker while I read through the petition. "She's asking for half of everything," Magnus said after I'd described what I was seeing. "House, retirement accounts, savings, and she's claiming she needs temporary spousal support of $3,000 a month." "Based on what income?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She's using your historical income. She's arguing that your employment situation is temporary and the support order should be based on your earning potential. Can she do that? She can try, Magnus said. But we're going to argue that your earning potential isn't relevant when you're actually unemployed. We'll need documentation, termination notices, job search records, rejection letters. I can provide all of that, I said. I'd been carefully building the paper trail for weeks now. Good. In the meantime, don't make any large purchases or transfers. Everything needs to look legitimate. The temporary orders hearing is set for 3 weeks out. Over those 3 weeks, I played my part perfectly. I updated my LinkedIn to seeking new opportunities. I applied for jobs, real applications that I knew wouldn't pan out because I was either overqualified or the positions weren't actually hiring. I made myself look desperate, defeated, like a man whose world was crumbling. Jasmine, meanwhile, got bolder. Adam started coming to the house openly. I'd come home to find them together, not even trying to hide it anymore, like they'd won already. One evening, I walked in to find them on the couch. Adam looked at me with contempt. "You're still here?" he said. "I live here," I replied evenly. "Not for long," Jasmine sneered. "Once the court orders you out—" "The court's not going to order me out of a house I half own," I interrupted. "Magnus says your attorney should know better than to ask." "We'll see what the judge says," she shot back. I just smiled and walked upstairs. But I'd been busy with something else, too, something Jasmine didn't know about. I'd hired a forensic accountant named Albert Rodriguez and a private investigator named Damian Wright. What they found changed everything. Albert called me to his office downtown. When I arrived, he had his laptop open, spreadsheets filling the screen. "Look at this," he said, turning the screen toward me. "Over the past 2 years, she's moved almost $120,000 into an account in her name only. Small transfers, never more than $5,000 at a time, so they wouldn't trigger alerts." I stared at the numbers. $120,000. "Where'd the money come from?" "Your business account. She had access as your spouse for tax purposes, remember?" I did remember. I'd added her to the account 3 years ago so she could sign tax documents when I was traveling, a decision I'd made out of trust that she'd turned into a weapon. "That's theft," I said quietly. "It's dissipation of marital assets," Albert corrected. "She took money from a marital account and hid it for her sole benefit. A judge can order her to return it, plus potentially award you a greater share of remaining assets to compensate." The anger that had been simmering inside me flared white-hot. 2 years. She'd been planning this for 2 years. Damian had been busy, too. He met me at a coffee shop the next day with a thick folder. "The affair's been going on for at least 2 years, he reported. "I've got photos, credit card receipts, hotel records. They've taken at least 6 trips together. Vegas, San Francisco, even a weekend in Vancouver. All paid for with your joint credit card." 2 years, I said, the words tasting bitter. "Yeah, and there's more." Damian leaned forward. "Adam Hansen is married." That stopped me cold. "What?" "Married with 2 kids. Wife's name is Diane Hansen. She has no idea." I thought about that for a long moment. About another person being lied to, betrayed, living in ignorance while their spouse destroyed their life. "Does she deserve to know?" I asked. "That's not my call," Damian said. "But I can tell you she's going to find out eventually. These things always come out." I made a decision right then, one that would shift everything. "Get me her contact information." The morning of the temporary orders hearing arrived cold and gray, the kind of Portland weather that matched my mood perfectly. I met Magnus outside the courthouse at 8:30. He was carrying a briefcase that I knew contained every piece of evidence we'd gathered. Bank statements, credit card receipts, Albert's financial analysis, Damian's investigative reports. "You ready?" Magnus asked. "I've been ready," I said. We walked into Judge Gerald McKinley's courtroom at 9. Jasmine was already there with her attorney, Charmaine Parker. They sat at their table looking confident, like this was just a formality before Jasmine got her $3,000 a month. Charmaine was sharp-looking, professional, the kind of attorney who probably won most of her cases through sheer preparation. Magnus and I sat at our table. We looked calm. Because we were. Judge McKinley entered at 9:15. He was a stern man in his 60s with gray hair and the kind of presence that made everyone in the room sit up straighter. He wore traditional black robes and carried himself like someone who'd seen every trick in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. He reviewed the files with a frown, taking his time. The silence stretched. I could feel Jasmine's tension from across the room. Finally, Judge McKinley looked up. Ms. Parker, your client is requesting $3,000 a month in temporary spousal support based on the respondent's historical income. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Charmaine stood. Mr. Robinson has been earning approximately $200,000 annually. While he claims to be recently unemployed, we believe this is a temporary situation, and support should be calculated on his earning potential, not his current. Mr. Whitmore, Judge McKinley interrupted. Magnus stood smoothly. Your Honor, Mr. Robinson was indeed earning that amount, but he's now unemployed through no fault of his own. He's actively seeking employment, as his job search records will show. He cannot be ordered to pay support from income he doesn't have. Magnus paused. More importantly, we have significant concerns about Mrs. Robinson's financial conduct during the marriage. Charmaine's head snapped toward us. Your Honor, this is a temporary support hearing, not a full— I'd like to hear this, Judge McKinley said. Mr. Whitmore? Magnus opened his briefcase. Your Honor, over the past 2 years, Mrs. Robinson has systematically transferred nearly $120,000 from marital accounts into a secret account in her name only. He handed documents to the clerk, who passed them to the judge. These transfers were made in small increments to avoid detection. Additionally, our investigation has revealed that Mrs. Robinson has been engaged in an extramarital affair for at least 2 years. During that time, she spent approximately $40,000 of marital funds on affair-related expenses, hotel stays, expensive dinners, trips to Las Vegas, San Francisco, and Vancouver, all charged to the couple's joint credit card. I watched Jasmine's face go pale. Charmaine looked genuinely shocked. In total, Magnus continued, Mrs. Robinson has depleted marital assets by over $160,000 for her personal benefit, while planning to divorce Mr. Robinson and claim substantial support. She has no right to request support when she's systematically stolen from the marital estate. Judge McKinley's expression had gone from stern to disgusted. He looked directly at Jasmine. Mrs. Robinson, did you make these transfers? Jasmine stammered. I was protecting assets in case your husband found out about your affair? Judge McKinley finished coldly. Jasmine's mouth opened and closed. Judge McKinley turned to Charmaine. Ms. Parker, does your client understand that hiding marital assets during divorce proceedings can result in sanctions? Charmaine looked sick. Your Honor, we were unaware. Your client was aware, Judge McKinley snapped. The only question is whether you were. He shuffled the papers in front of him. Temporary spousal support is denied. Mrs. Robinson, I'm ordering you to disclose the full balance of that separate account immediately. Depending on what's found in final discovery, you may be required to return those funds to the marital estate. We'll address this further at the final hearing. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Magnus and I stood. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not quite relief, but vindication. As we headed toward the courtroom doors, Jasmine's hand shot out and grabbed my arm. You son of a bitch, she hissed. I pulled away calmly. I didn't steal our money, Jasmine. You did. I'll fight this, she said, her voice shaking with rage. I'll take everything you have. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married 8 years ago was gone. In her place was someone desperate and cornered and dangerous. You're welcome to try, I said quietly. But right now, I have nothing. And you have a secret bank account you're going to have to explain to a judge. Good luck. 2 weeks after the temporary hearing, my phone rang. Magnus. We've got a problem, he said without preamble. My stomach tightened. What kind of problem? Charmaine filed a motion yesterday. She's claiming you're hiding assets, arguing that your unemployment is a sham, that you deliberately tanked your business to avoid support obligations. I closed my eyes. Can she prove that? She's requesting a full business audit, Magnus said. If the court orders it and finds evidence you deliberately reduced your income to avoid support, this could go very badly for you, Kevin. The judge could impute income, order you to pay support based on what you could be earning rather than what you are earning. Worse, he could hold you in contempt. But I really am unemployed, I protested. The business isn't operating. Kevin. Magnus's voice was careful, measured. Is there any truth to their allegations? Because if there is, I need to know now. I hesitated. That pause was probably answer enough. The business could restart, I admitted finally. George and I suspended operations, but we could bring it back online. Magnus was quiet for a long moment. Please tell me you didn't fabricate your unemployment. I didn't fabricate it, I said quickly. I really did shut down the business. Let the contracts lapse, sent the contractors home. It's not operating. But you could restart it at will. Yes? Then they're going to find out, Magnus said flatly. An audit will show the business is viable, just dormant, and then Judge McKinley is going to crucify you. My hands were shaking. I'd been so focused on outsmarting Jasmine that I might have outsmarted myself right into a courtroom disaster. What do I do? I asked. You have two choices, Magnus said. One, come clean now. Restart the business and hope the judge is lenient because you're being honest. Two, fight the audit and hope they don't find enough evidence to prove intent. Both options were terrible. If I came clean, I'd be paying substantial support to a woman who'd stolen from me. If I fought and lost, I could face contempt charges. There's a third option, Magnus said slowly. But it's risky. I'm listening. We go nuclear. We don't just defend, we attack. We file a motion to dismiss her support request entirely based on fraud and dissipation. We argue that she didn't just steal marital assets. She committed fraud by failing to disclose that account in her initial financial declarations. That's perjury, Kevin. Will that work? It might. If we can make the case serious enough, we shift focus from your income to her criminal conduct. Judges don't like being lied to. They really don't like perjury on financial declarations. I thought about Judge McKinley's face when he'd seen the evidence of Jasmine's secret account. The disgust in his voice. Do it, I said. But I did something else, too. Something I probably shouldn't have done. I pulled out the contact information Damien had given me weeks ago, stared at the phone number for a long moment. Then I dialed. She answered on the third ring. Hello? Mrs. Hanson, my name is Kevin Robinson. You don't know me, but I need to talk to you about your husband, Adam. There was a pause. What about him? He's been having an affair with my wife for the past 2 years. The words came out steady, matter of fact. I have evidence, photos, hotel receipts, everything. I thought you deserved to know. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, send me everything. I did. Every photo Damien had taken, every receipt showing dinners and hotel stays, every shred of evidence documenting 2 years of betrayal. 2 days later, Magnus called. Did you send evidence of the affair to Adam Hanson's wife? Yes, I said. Why? Because she deserved to know. Magnus sighed. Well, it worked. Charmaine just called me. Apparently, Diane filed for divorce yesterday. Adam's in a panic, calling Jasmine nonstop. She's falling apart. My pulse quickened. And? Jasmine wants to settle. Settle? She knows the audit is coming, Magnus explained. She knows we're filing the fraud motion, and now her boyfriend's life is imploding. She wants out before it gets worse. I leaned back against the kitchen counter, processing this. What's she offering? She keeps the money in the secret account, calls it her compensation for the marriage. You keep everything else. No support, no buyout of the house, clean break. I did the math in my head. The house had about $200,000 in equity. My retirement accounts held another $150,000. She'd already taken $120,000. She was proposing to walk away with less than half of everything. She's desperate, I said. Very, Magnus confirmed. The question is whether you want to push further or end this now. I thought about Judge McKinley's face when he'd seen the evidence of Jasmine's theft, the disgust in his voice. Then I thought about the audit, the one that might expose my gambit with the business. The risk that everything could still blow up in my face. I thought about how tired I was, how exhausting it was living in this limbo, fighting every single day. But then I thought about $120,000, money she'd stolen, money she wanted to keep. Tell her no, I said. Kevin, she returns every penny she stole, or we go to trial. And I wanted in writing that she waives all spousal support forever. Magnus was quiet for a moment. You're sure? I'm sure. That night, my phone rang. Jasmine's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought about how satisfying this conversation was going to be. What? I said. She was crying, full-on sobbing. Kevin, please, I can't give it all back. I've already spent some of it. Then you'll have to find a way to replace it, I said coldly. This is cruel. Her voice broke. After 8 years. After 8 years, you cheated on me, plotted to rob me, and stole over $100,000, I interrupted. I'm not the cruel one here, Jasmine. I made mistakes, she sobbed. But I loved you once. Doesn't that count for something? No, I said simply. It doesn't. Because you didn't just stop loving me, you betrayed me in the most calculated way possible. You turned our marriage into a business transaction, so now I'm treating it like one. Return the money and walk away, or face Judge McKinley and possibly criminal charges for perjury and theft. Criminal charges? The fear in her voice was sharp. Magnus says what you did, hiding assets and lying on financial declarations, could be prosecuted. I haven't decided yet whether to push for that. But if you force me to trial, if you force that audit, I guarantee I'll pursue every legal option available. The silence stretched long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then, what about Adam? What about him? Diana's destroying him. He's going to lose everything. His kids, his house? Good, I said. He knew you were married. He participated in spending my money on your affair. He stood in my living room and told you how much you could take from me. He deserves everything he's getting. You're a monster, she whispered. No, Jasmine. I'm just someone who refuses to be a victim. There's a difference. The line went dead. 2 days after Jasmine hung up on me, Magnus called with news. Charmaine reached out, he said. Jasmine's ready to settle for real this time. I sat forward on the couch. I'm listening. She'll return $100,000, all that's left in the account. The rest is gone, spent on the affair and who knows what else. In exchange, you give her a $20,000 payment, essentially a wash that lets her keep $20,000 total. You split the house equity 50-50, no spousal support, ever. I did the math again, $100,000 back in my pocket. Another $100,000 for my half of the house equity. She'd walk away with $120,000 total, the house equity split plus the $20,000 she kept. Not half of everything, not even close. It's a good deal, Magnus continued. Better than you'd probably get at trial, especially if that audit goes badly. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. I'll take it. 6 weeks later, I stood in Judge McKinley's courtroom. The proceedings took less than 15 minutes. Jasmine sat at the other table with Charmaine, her face carefully blank. She wouldn't look at me. Judge McKinley reviewed the settlement agreement one final time, then looked up over his reading glasses. Mr. Robinson, Mrs. Robinson, your marriage is dissolved. The property division and support terms are as stipulated in your settlement agreement. He paused, his gaze settling on Jasmine. Mrs. Robinson, I want to be clear. You came very close to serious legal consequences in this proceeding. You're fortunate Mr. Robinson was willing to settle. I suggest you take this as a learning experience. Jasmine nodded, her jaw tight. The decree is signed. You're both free to go. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in months. The weight that had been pressing down on my chest since that afternoon I'd overheard her scheming. It lifted. Not completely, but enough. Outside, on the courthouse steps, Jasmine stopped me. I hope you're happy, she said. I turned to face her. I'm not, I said honestly, but I'm content. I protected myself. That's enough. Her eyes flashed. Was it worth it? Destroying everything we had? I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd been married to for 8 years, the woman I'd trusted with everything, the woman who'd plotted my financial destruction while smiling to my face. Jasmine, you destroyed it the moment you decided to cheat and steal, I said quietly. I just made sure you didn't profit from it. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else. Then she closed it and walked away without another word. I watched her go and felt nothing but relief. Over the next few weeks, I heard things through the grapevine. Adam wasn't so lucky in his divorce. Diane took him for everything. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment and paying 70% of his income in child and spousal support. Jasmine stopped seeing him shortly after his financial situation became clear. Apparently, her interest evaporated when the money did. Funny how that worked. The day after the divorce was final, I went to George's house. Time to restart? He asked. Time to restart, I confirmed. We called our old clients. Most were happy to work with us again. Turned out our reputation for quality work meant more than a temporary shutdown. Within 3 months, we were back at full capacity. Within 6 months, we'd expanded beyond where we'd been before. The restructuring had actually given us a chance to shed some unprofitable relationships and focus on our best clients. We were leaner, more efficient, and making more money than ever. My income came roaring back. 200,000, then 250, then 300. And Jasmine, who'd signed away her right to support forever, got to watch from a distance as I rebuilt everything she thought she'd destroyed. 2 years passed. I was sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday afternoon, working through some contract revisions on my laptop, when I saw her. Jasmine. She looked tired, older than she should have been at 36. The careful styling she'd always maintained was gone. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans and a plain sweater that looked worn. She was alone. She saw me, too. For a moment, she just stood there by the door, frozen. Then she walked over. "Kevin," she said. "Jasmine? You look good," she said, and there was no bitterness in it, just observation. "I heard the business is doing very well." "Very well," I confirmed. "I also heard you're seeing someone. Ellie, right?" I smiled. Ellie Sanders was a project manager I'd met through work about a year after the divorce. She was kind, honest, and had her own successful career. She didn't need my money, didn't want it. We'd been together for 6 months, and it was the healthiest relationship I'd ever had. Built on honesty, mutual respect, actual partnership. "Yes," I said simply. That's good. I'm glad you're happy." "Are you?" I asked, not cruelly, just curious. She shook her head. "Not really. I'm working retail, living with a roommate. Adam and I lasted about 3 months after his divorce. Turns out he wasn't that interested when I didn't have any money to spend." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. And surprisingly, I meant it. Not sorry enough to regret anything I'd done, but sorry that her life had turned out this way. "I was stupid," she said quietly. "I got greedy. I thought I deserved more than I had, and I lost everything. You made choices," I said. "They had consequences. Do you ever think about forgiving me?" I considered the question, really considered it. "I don't hate you anymore," I said finally. "But forgive? No. What you did wasn't a mistake, Jasmine. It was a calculated betrayal that lasted years. I've moved on, but that doesn't mean I forgive it." She nodded slowly. "I understand. For what it's worth, I really am sorry." "I believe you," I said. "But it doesn't change anything." She left after that. I watched her go, feeling nothing but a distant sadness for the person she could have been. That evening, I met Ellie for dinner at our favorite Italian place. She took one look at my face and asked, "Rough day?" "Ran into my ex," I explained. "How was that?" "Complicated," I admitted. "But also clarifying. It reminded me how much better my life is now." She smiled and took my hand across the table. "Better is good. Better is very good," I agreed. Because here's what I learned through all of this. Revenge isn't about destruction for its own sake. It's about refusing to be a victim. It's about making sure that people who hurt you don't get to profit from that hurt. Jasmine spent years scheming to take everything from me. Instead, she ended up with nothing. No marriage, no money, no future with Adam, nothing. And me? I got my life back. I got my business back. I got my self-respect back. People ask me sometimes if what I did was too harsh, if faking unemployment, exposing the affair to Diane, fighting Jasmine tooth and nail in court, if all of that was overkill. My answer is always the same. Jasmine made the choice to betray me. I just made sure she paid the price for that choice. And honestly, watching her walk away in that coffee shop, watching her face the consequences of her own actions, that wasn't revenge. That was justice. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.